Joining us now is Scott Taylor. Scott Taylor is our candidate for Congress in the 2nd District. He has a primary coming up on Tuesday. If you can't vote, you got to get an absentee ballot. Otherwise, you can vote in person. It's a real primary, the old-fashioned way, like you actually have to go and get votes, not rigged conventions. Scott Taylor, the overwhelming favorite there to win, and then go on in the fall to take on the incumbent one-term Democrat, Elaine Luria, who I've actually never met, even though I broadcasted to her district the whole thing. I've never met her, don't know who she is. If I sat in a taxi cab with her, I would have no idea who she is. And she hates my show and will not come on ever, ever. So, you know what? Who cares? Hope she loses to Scott Taylor. Scott, great to have you with us.
John, good morning. Congratulations on your acquisitions, and good morning to your new audience out there across Virginia.
Thank you, Scott. Tell us about your race this week, what people have to do.
Sure.
Next week.
The 16th was the last day to request an absentee ballot application, so it is you either go in person at your registrar's office to vote absentee, or on Tuesday, the 23rd, you show up at your normal polling stations. Like you said, a full primary, which is the right thing to do for an office that has the potential to send people to war. And those rigged conventions, military folks can't even participate in them. So that's insane to me that you would select someone who has the potential to send people to war or not. And those same folks that would fight the war can't participate. Makes no sense to me. So June 23rd, normal polling station.
How's your campaign look?
Very good. We have an awesome grassroots organization our volunteers have been fantastic for months now. They've been delivering literally thousands of yard signs. They've been making phone calls, all the stuff you're supposed to do, of course, to win. We've obviously switched to digital because of the COVID crisis, but we feel great. We have tremendous amount of support here in the 2nd District, and we are ready to get this district back in November from the Democrats and reelect the president.
I saw a poll in your district. You were up big in this primary. I mean, it was not even really a competitive race. That was a poll that I saw that was an independent poll that was not connected to your campaign. I know you guys do internal polls. Is the poll that I saw reflective? I mean, it had you at like 60%. Loyola was about 20%, and it kind of went down from there. Jerome Bell was like a 5, or I think it was at 3. Not that these numbers are going to play out, but it just, when you see one of these things, you had a commanding lead. Have your internals shown kind of the same thing? Not to be overconfident.
I never want to be. We never will be overconfident. We will never be outworked, regardless if we're ahead or behind. We still fire on all cylinders and do what we're supposed to do to win. But yeah, our internal polls were consistent with the independent poll as well.
All right, so I got Scott at Hampton text, and he said, John, please help add clarity to VA 2nd. Scott Taylor lost to Elaine Luria. Should we reinforce failure? Ben Loyola is running negative ads against Scott. Big turnoff. And where is Daniel Gade? Scott in Hampton. Scott, let me ask you this. I've endorsed Scott Taylor in the 2nd District, no question about it. He's the best candidate to take on Elaine Luria. The race, last time midterms, blue wave. This time, Taylor's a nominee, Trump on the ballot. Trump is going to carry the 2nd District in Virginia. Taylor's going to win. As far as Loyola's negative ads, he's got a right to do that. And so anybody can run ads doing whatever they want. He says it's a big turnoff. And then he says, where is Daniel Gade? Daniel Gade is running for U.S. Senate, not Congress. That race also taking place on the 23rd, and he is the overwhelming favorite to win that and take on Mark Warner, who will, in all likelihood, win that race. Scott, why are you the best candidate to take on Elaine Luria?
Sure. Number one, when you look at campaigning, of course, we have the by far the largest grassroots organization. We have the most support in the district. We have the ability to fundraise, which is an unfortunate necessity, of course, as you know, John. And we have relationships from all the way to the White House. And so and plus the experience. I'm the only one in this race with any experience whatsoever of actually getting things done, shepherding bills across the finish line to get them into law, doing things like bringing hundreds of millions of dollars back to much-needed base infrastructure in Virginia. We were on the Appropriations Committee. We'll go right back to the Appropriations Committee with all the federal spending that is in Virginia, 40-some% of our economy here in the 2nd District. Virginians have to have a seat at the table of the Money Committee, no question about it. So you have outsized influence because every other committee that's creating policy needs money, of course, to implement their policies. And so, I've been able to help people in their lives, their everyday lives, all throughout the district, and I'll do it again.
Are you going to be able to raise the money after what happened in 2018, losing the Luria? Are you going to be able to raise the money to be competitive with her? That's what some people called me up and said, look, he's not going to get any money. National people don't think he can win. He already got beat by her. Let's get somebody else in there that's new. They'll raise more money. True or false?
It's completely false. I mean, I have one opponent who has $80,000 in debt. I have another opponent who may have 10 or 15,000 in the primary. So it's very clear that they would never be able to raise the money. Meanwhile, the last quarter, the first quarter, we raised almost $500,000 and raised more than every GOP challenger in the region and most incumbents. So we will absolutely raise the money. We are the number one priority, this district, because I'm in. That's straight out of the horse's mouth, the NRCC chair, Rep. Emmer, that we're the number one priority in the region for them to take back this district. So while Democrats, to be fair, I mean, I'm jealous. They do a good job of raising money. They're cycles ahead of us with their Act Blue. They also, their campaigns, they transfer hundreds of thousands of dollars straight to the campaign. So when you look at Elaine, Luria, and myself and compare our numbers to what we personally have raised, I'm far outraising her.
Right.
But when you have Emily's list, when you have Nancy Pelosi's PAC that transfer hundreds of thousands of dollars over to them, I mean, that's very hard to compete because the Republicans, we don't do it like that. We have outside, which I think is a mistake because obviously the campaign can buy at lower rates and have more bang for your buck straight to the campaign as opposed to a third-party group that's out there buying stuff.
Exactly. John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. We're with former Congressman Scott Taylor. He's running for the nomination for the Republican Party for the 2nd District again.
One other thing, John?
Yes, go ahead,
One
sir.
other thing is, there was a poll 3 months ago, and over 3 months ago, and we hadn't even spent not a dime, and not talked to a general election audience. And it was an independent poll that had me running neck and neck with Elaine, Luria, higher positives, lower negatives. That is bad for an incumbent if your opponent hasn't spent a dime and they're already tied with you.
You're going to win this race. I mean, I have no question about it. Just complete disclosure, our radio show and myself, I have unequivocally endorsed Scott Taylor in this race. So has my political action committee. Make Virginia great again. We've endorsed Scott. We'll be doing some things with him in the next few days. We don't coordinate with the campaigns, so they just pop up unannounced. So, but we are 100% behind him because he's the candidate who can beat Elaine, Luria, and we're excited about that. Scott Taylor with us, running for Congress in a primary that'll be decided on June 23rd. That is Tuesday in the 2nd District of Virginia. Be sure and vote in that. If you've not asked for an absentee ballot, you can't get one via mail, but you can go into your registrar's office and request one and vote there and vote early. Either way, get involved and vote in this Republican primary on Tuesday. Also, U.S. Senate candidates on the ballot. Daniel Gay, the overwhelming favorite there. Scott, let's get to what's going on here in Virginia. Let's start with statues being torn down. Willy-nilly, Columbus's statue, torn down, chopped off the head, threw it in a lake. It's just kind of like vandalism stuff. What is your position on these statues being torn down?
Well, in general, John, I like history. I think history is important. I think the more that you study history, the better you get a glimpse at the future. And some of these statues, let's be honest, people had no idea who the hell they were. Drive by them every single day, and they have no idea. And then you have Democrats that use these things to divide people. And I think in general, I like teaching history. I like adding history. And some of these things, when you look at, let me give you 2 examples of what to do and what not to do. When you look at what happened in Portsmouth, which was an embarrassment on national television, because you had the cops they stood down because of the city leaders told them to do that. And this is a city that has a black police chief. It's black, run by black leaders, and they just vandalized the statue, which is public property, quite frankly. And there's a law now that would have allowed them to remove it. Virginia state law, of course, we have a Dillon Rule state, so a lot of the powers there in Richmond. They allowed for localities to decide to do that come July 1st. So they vandalized the statue. Someone got hurt during the statue, is in critical condition. And then you have across the water in Norfolk, in the way that Kenny Alexander handled it, which I think was much, much better. And the city decided that they were going to move it, but he told people, you're not going to vandalize it. This is public property, so we're going to protect it like we're supposed to do, and protect you from hurting yourself, and then we will remove it. So in general, like I said, I think we should teach more context because we have an imperfect, layered history, the good, the bad, the ugly, which is, enable us to be who we are today. So in general, I like to teach more history, but I do not support, obviously, just removing statues and with vandalism and against the law. I think that's the wrong way to do it.
The governor yesterday saying he's not going to phase 3, even though you look at the numbers in Virginia, everything is down. 18 people, let me give you an example. We had 18 deaths Monday. 17 of them were in nursing homes, people over 85. The number of cases is down. Hospitalization beds are at a low, only 15% capacity. Ventilators now at 13% capacity. They're being shipped overseas. No numbers now support not going to phase 3. No data, no science. Now he's not even starting school on time. People in an uproar over that. He's got no numbers for that. What's the deal with this guy?
This governor has been a disaster. I mean, quite frankly, the only doctor governor in the country. This could have been his moment to shine. Opposite. He's been horrible. Number one, right from the get-go, he wasn't using data and science to make his decisions. And the nursing home thing is a complete tragic failure of leadership. I've been screaming about it for months now. The data from Europe before us show that these things were vulnerable. He should have immediately pushed PPE supply to them, no-touch testing for workers and residents. He should have created more transparency, tweak the code in Virginia's code during the veto session, or call a special session, which he can do right now, to give families transparency. They don't even know if there's COVID outbreaks in these nursing homes. They can't see their loved ones. That is insane to me.
Totally.
And Elaine Luria just popped her head up 3 months later and started talking about that. This has been going on. We've been talking about it for months now. It's been a tragic failure. Then you have schools. This is insane. There's zero data or science that's out there that says they should be phasing in these schools. He's doing much more harm to our children than not by not allowing them to go. Kids that rely on school lunches, special education, kids falling behind, working families, single mothers. This is insane, and I haven't heard one Democrat politician stand up and say, this is wrong. I'm in your party, Governor, cool, but you've hurt our businesses, devastated our businesses. You're hurting our children, our most precious resource. This governor has been an abject failure, quite frankly, in his leadership. And it's very concerning to me that you haven't had other elected officials and, quite frankly, some Republicans stand up and say, this is wrong. This is not based on data and science. You are doing way more harm to our Commonwealth than helping.
Well, the Democrats aren't going to say anything because he's part of their national covert plan, because everything is failing now for them. Everything they tried has not worked. The entire lockdown is melting away. States are opening up. The economy is up. They're in a dead panic. So now what they have to do is concoct reasons to shut down schools so mom and dad can't go back to work, so people don't buy back-to-school supplies, so there's no athletics. So basically,
think about this, John. The people who are the least vulnerable amongst us, or the folks who, look at Virginia Beach, for example, shutting down these businesses and coming down here hypocritically with no mask on. And these businesses, they're on a lifeline. Many of them are like throwing out lifelines trying to survive, and they're workers who are not the highest paid white collar jobs, right, in like the restaurant industry, tourism industry, and then they're on unemployment, and then Virginia can't keep up with giving them unemployment. They're months behind. This is crazy. And then now the schools and these kids that may fall further. I have a 7-year-old. It would be devastating for him not to get the education that's necessary to keep him up so that he can keep up with grades and stuff. I mean, this is crazy. And I will tell you, there are thousands of mothers and families that are organizing on little groups on Facebook right now because they understand this is going to hurt their families and their children.
Right.
And they're not all Republicans, man.
Right.
They're not all Republicans,
Well, that's what the Democrats aren't seeing. And basically they're holding kids' education and athletics hostage, crushing their dreams. I had Rob Whitman on the other day, whose wife, Catherine, who you know, has been a public schools teacher in Virginia, get this, for 41 years. That's even hard to fathom, like 41 years. And she said, look, kids are losing education time that is going to reverberate through their entire life. And so it's like, let's hold these kids hostage in order to maybe win a congressional seat in Virginia. I mean, that guy is sick. I tell you what, it's just the whole thing is sick. And then no football, no athletics. I mean, you had kids that are trying to get a scholarship in their senior season. That's at risk. Dreams are shattered. I mean, the guy is whacked. And there's no evidence.
Plenty of science and data and evidence and examples on how to get these kids back to school in a safe way. But the reality is my son is more likely, to get killed in the backyard walking his dog than get killed by COVID. And the reality is you can also put in safety measures, of course, to protect other folks. But we got to get our kids back to school. This is insane. And I hope that these mothers and these groups that are organizing are going to be super loud. And then finally, Democrat politicians are going to listen, and hopefully the governor does, so that we don't harm our children.
Scott, where is your election night victory watch party Tuesday night?
Cantina Laredo. It's a new restaurant that's in Town Center, Virginia Beach. It's big. It's got outdoor and indoor, so it'll accommodate our, with safe distances, of course, with people coming in there. So Cantina Laredo, right in downtown Virginia Beach.
I always do this stuff on the air to put you on the spot, so we like to do our live coverage election night radio show on the John Fredericks Network live at Cantina Laredo. Can you guys set that up for me?
Of course, man. We'll do anything for you, John. You know that.
Done. Thank you. Scott Taylor will be live. Actually, Saxman will be there starting at 5 o'clock, the Chris Saxman Show. He'll be live from Cantina Laredo. Saxman just finding this out right now. This is how we do business. Everything is on the air. It just saves time. So Saxman, 5 p.m., Cantina Laredo. He's listening now. Thanks, Chris. And we'll be there at 6 p.m. with live coverage. Scott Taylor, thank you for being with us.